Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to look at my newly acquired 1985 FG420L Yamaha. You can tell it's an 85 by the way that it is. The dove motif on the headstock is from 85, 86. There were some later ones, but not in the exported Yamahas. They were like in Japan only. So I picked this up just before Christmas because I have another one that I bought originally way back in 1985, but this one has the passive pickups in it. So first off, to have a left-handed 1985 FG420 was going to be a very rare thing to begin with. But to have two of them now, and this one having the passive pickups, I could not say no. So I picked it up. But this one has had a lot of use on it, and it requires a new nut, and we're going to cut a new nut out of bone and at some point down the road. But today what we're going to do, these tuners are in sad shape. I oiled them up. That didn't work. They're grindy, old, loose. It's time to replace them. So today, tuner replacement, off to the bench. So of course the first step is to remove the old strings. Now, usually I tell you loosen the skinny strings first because you might want to do a setup on the guitar and blah 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 blah. This one we've already set up to the best of its ability, so it doesn't really matter. We are going to be changing the strings on it this time. These strings are fairly new, so we'll probably put them in a side pile as a backup in case we break one on the way out. But either way, I've noticed a lot of people, they will like cut the strings halfway along and then create two sets of garbage. Don't do that. Take the strings all off in one piece, wrap them in a coil, and actually return them to the store to have them recycled. If they don't recycle them, then shame them into it. But either way we go about it, let's remove the strings. And so you just get all your 6 strings together, make a little loop, wrap them through, roll the loop down to the other end, trying to keep the strings all the same height. Then just take the tail, run them around and through. One little coil off to the recycle. So, as I was saying, these are really, some of them are like really worn out. So we are going to replace them. I picked up another set just at the guitar store. What were they? About $35 Canadian. At the, you're gonna pay whatever we tell you, guitar shop. And then we are going to start removing the old tuners. Like, that is way too much. You should not have that kind of play in tuners. So once you get to this point, you'll find that in opposite corners of this here particular type of tuner are 2 small Phillips screws. Remove them, and then we pull the cover off. Being careful while you're doing this because these screws are small and easily losable. The new ones came with screws anyways, but keep them just in case for some reason one of these tuners is good and we can reuse it later. Bam, bam, everything comes out. So there we have it. Simple enough. Now you can see where I oiled it lately. Repeat 5 more times. And just in the tool manner, If you get one of these small precision screwdriver sets, they have a little knob on the top that turns separately than the rest of the screwdriver. That works out really well because you can use your other hand to put pressure on and still turn the screw without the friction of that on your fingertips. Not a paid promotion, but I originally bought this set for working on my eyeglasses, which of course is silly because if you need to work on your eyeglasses, what do you need but, well, to look through your glasses. Yeah, which is why you always have to put 3 or 4 sets of glasses. Anyways, continue on and remove the old tuners. So now that all the tuners are out, the next thing we want to remove are the ferrules that go into the headstock. And how we're going to do this is by flipping it over. I'm going to use a screwdriver. Find a better way to do this if you can, but I'm going to push that out from this side. And voila. So now I was kind of curious about this because the ferrules that are on the other aren't quite the same. You see, we bought these particular tuners because they were indistinguishable from the old tuners. But now what we find out is that the ferrules that go into the headstock are a different size. The one on the left is the old style because it is wider and actually a little bit taller than the new ones that come in the new pack. So luckily enough, the ferrules of the old style fit perfectly over the shaft of the new tuners. So that's good. The fact that they're a little bit taller than the new ferrules, which would sit a little bit lower, I'll be way too that much. Anyways, they will be the same as the old tuners because I measured the shaft on the old tuners and they are the exact same length anyways. So all we're going to do is just leave the old ferrules in there and use them. So now it's time for installation. Now, since this is an acoustic guitar with 3 tuners on each side, they are slightly different. The mounting holes on those 3 differ than the mounting holes on these 3 in the angle. So that's just something that you'll have to look at when you're putting them on, and we'll see in which way these go. So these 3 go up this side. Now, I did also do a little look at the mounting screws for these as opposed to the mounting screws for the old ones. And what I found was the one on the left is the new ones and the one on the right is the old ones. So you see the older ones had a different thread and had a little collar above the threads, between the threads and the head of the screw itself. So when I saw that there was a difference in the tuners, the actual shrouds, the ferrules in the headstock, I thought we had better check that too. And sure enough, they are different screws. So I am planning on taking the old screws and reusing them because the holes in the headstock will have been made for the old screws. So there's something else to keep an eye on. Okay. Oh, drink. Coffee. Timmy's. Yes. Okay. Let's get to it. And the one other thing I've done is gone over each of them to make sure that they are solid. And these ones even seem a little tight, but it's better than what the old ones were. None of the handles are loose or anything like that. I personally would rather have the adjustable tension on them, but these are replacements. They're Ping, actually a P2642 Ping tuners. So those are the ones that tend to be the equivalent looking to the ones that were on the 85 Yamaha to begin with. They aren't obviously completely the same because of the ferrule size, and the mounting screws are a little different, but other than that, they are vintage. They look the same. You know, you wouldn't look at it and you don't have to drill new holes anywhere, so that's why I went with these ones. So first off, since we had that one ferrule out, we're going to make sure that they are all in there tight, and they are. So let's start assembly. So now we have the vintage mounting screws, Phillips head, and what we're going to do is first off just sink them. We're not going to tighten them up. We want them all to make sure that they go into the mounting hole that they were in originally, and that they seat well. These screwdrivers are really handy for you to be able to, you can put your hand on the top and use it as pressure on the end of the screwdriver while you twist in the screw with the rest of your fingers. I like that. So now we have all these screws reinstalled. And as I say, we just sunk them. We did not tighten them yet. And that is because what we want to do is go over them one by one and see if any of them are stripped underneath. Because if they are, then we will be doing the old toothpick trick. As in, if you get a stripped screw, take the screw out, take a little piece of toothpick, slip it down into the hole, reinstall the screw. That will take up the extra room in the hole. And these being very small and Phillips, we want to make sure we don't strip the heads either, because then we've got a whole other problem. These are all now snug. What we'll probably do is double check them in a couple of days and make sure. But now we have new tuners. I'm not sure if this will help keep it in tune, because, well, I just don't know. I'm hoping so. If the other ones were loose, maybe they would be prone to lose tune as well. And there we have it, people. We got the new tuners installed. As I say, Ping P2642 tuners. They're inexpensive, but as I say, they look the exact same as the originals, so that's where I really wanted to go. Now, this nut has to be replaced, but I don't think I'm going to take that off of there until I get the new nut kind of in the area. I got myself a couple of blank bone slabs that are going to have to be cut down and cut ourselves. Never done it before, so why not? You know, you could spend a little bit. I think they were about maybe $20 on line, buying from one of those online places, but who knows what you get when you do that. This I got from a reputable place here in Canada that I know is bone nuts. And the only issue is that they are huge compared to what's on there, so there's a lot of cutting down to be done. But that's for another day. Let's restring this pig and see how she sounds. And so the other upgrade for the day is we've got new string pins, and they are made by a company called Graphtec here in Canada, not a paid promotion, and they are made of tusk, which is a man-made synthetic type ivory. Now, people often say about these bridge pins, or bridge pins, that they are going to make a difference in the sound that you get. I don't know that that's true, because the point of contact is the saddle, so it doesn't make any sense. So, as I always say with your strings, there's a little spool on the end of it. Always make sure it rolls down into the hole, not sideways, but endwise. And there's always not always, but there's a groove in the side of the bridge pins. We're going to make sure the groove points towards the headstock so that the wire is going to go into it. You push down so far. So roller down, groove in the pin pointing towards the headstock, push down in so far, and then at some point the pin should keep going and the string stay still. That is what you want. And guess what? These pins might be a little too wide. So the bridge pins are brand new, but they only go that far. And they stop. Let's take a look at them all and see if they are all that way or if it's just one of them. They are all that way. So we've got two options. One is to remount the hole in the guitar. I don't really feel like that's something I want to do. So the other thing we can do is get a little bit of sandpaper and thin out the pins. And I think that's where we're going to go with this. So off to the tool room. So now we really do have two options. One is to get a file and to just bore out that hole a little bit. But I am not really stuck on mangling the guitar. I'm thinking it would be a lot better to do the bridge pins because they are a lot less expensive and more easily replaceable than a new bridge. So what we're going to do is take a little wee piece of 180 sandpaper, wrap it around the pin, and just twist that. It's going to take quite a while, but I think it's worth it. I would much rather mess with the pins than mess with the guitar. So yeah. Might be dark by the time I get back, might be tomorrow by the time I get back, but I'll be right back after this message. So of course there must be an easier way to do this, and I think I just found it. Put your pin in there, get a little strip of sandpaper, and it takes a little while, but it works. So we're just going to go the full red green, wrap around. It takes maybe about a minute and a bit. But when you're done, it works. Just remember, you want to leave yourself a little bit of binding room. That just sort of sits into that point, and then once we push it tight, it'll be exactly where we want it to be. And it's a lot better than reaming out the bridge on your vintage guitar. Just remember to keep trying them every so often and see how far they go down. That one I'm good with, the first one, because it seems to be at a good spot where once I push it the rest of the way, it's going to jam good. This one is about a quarter or 2/3 of the way, 1/3 of the way there. So you just put it back in the head of your drill and leave it about enough room that you can sand it. Tighten down, not too tight, because of course this is like a graph tech. It's the material might be a little susceptible to breaking. I don't know. I'm not going to take that chance. But I just take a little strip of sandpaper, wrap it around, hold it at both ends, and do that for a couple of minutes every time, or not a couple of minutes, do it about 30 to 45 seconds and try it again. Back in the pin. We're about halfway there. Yes, I know it's kind of red greenish, but if it works, it works. And as I say, it's a lot better messing with $16 worth of pins than to a couple of $100 worth of guitar. Now, where was I? Oh yes, the roller on the end of the string goes this way down into the hole. The groove on the newly sized Tusk bridge pin points towards the headstock so that the wire will go up the groove. Once you push in so far, the string will stop going down, but the pin will keep on going down. That's what you want. You want the pin to seat to its extent, and then crank, run it up to the other end where you run the string. Seems that we're going into this spindle here. This spindle here. We're going to go up beyond this one, about maybe halfway to the next one. And that's where we want to cut it. Holding on to both sides at the same time so that the tail doesn't shoot across the room, because you do not want to lose that. Put it in a safe spot for going out later. Then we're going to take the tail, put it through the spindle, leave just a little bit extra sticking out there, just enough so that you're going to poke yourself on it, and crank the string. Now you're going to want to start winding. The first time it comes around, you want to go over top of that tail. And then after it goes over the top time, the second time around comes the crank. You go under the crank and keep rolling down into the headstock. That will give you a good, nice break angle at the nut. At that point, push down on the pin to make sure that it is sunk solidly into the guitar. There's still a little bit of room there that comes up, but I think that's very good. It's in there securely. It's not going to come out. So repeat 5 more times. With the roller, rolls down into the hole. The groove on the pin points at the headstock. Push in so far, the pin will keep going and the string will not. Crank, run, going into this spindle, so we go up beyond that just a little bit and cut. Hold on to both sides. String through the spindle about that far and crank. Wind. When the tail comes around, go over top of the tail and then start rolling down under the crank, under the tail when it comes about next time, and keep rolling down into the headstock. And so that's going to bring us to the end of part 1 of this here redo. We've now got the new machine heads installed and they're working fine, but we've got an issue here, and that is this nut is toast, and that's because I got the center 2 strings. The center 2 strings is not in tune. It's not just close. But the center 2 strings are hitting this first fret. Now we can do a little bit of a truss rod adjustment. I don't think it's really going to make too much of a difference because we're at 175. It's low, but with all the other strings not doing it and just those 2 center ones doing it, we've got an issue there, and it's the nut, because as soon as you fret, it goes away. So if you're fretting and you don't get that sitar-y sound, then it's the nut. The nut is your issue. And that is what we're going to be having to look at next. So thanks for watching. Please share, like, subscribe, leave a comment below. You're going to have to come back now to find out how this all ends up. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye now.